Welcome, ladies, to day 7 of the 12 days of Craftmas. Today, we're going to be making this really sweet tag. What I love about this project is, one, it's a cute tag. You can use it as a gift tag if you want to write on the back of it, add it to one of your presents. You could add this onto a bottle of wine, or you could use it as a place setting, which I have done here. I've made the tag, and then I've just created this beautiful place setting. It's just with some greenery and some berries and a pine cone, and I just glued it all together. And then to finish it, I just used some twine and wrapped it around and around and around, tied on the tag, and then I set this on my dinner plate that I have also on a charger plate, just to add a little bit more depth to my table. So it's super, super cute. So we are going to get started on making this project. So to start with, we're starting just the first layer of our tag, which I've already cut. It's 2 1/4 by 4. And we're just going to cut the corners into a tag. I'm just taking a scrap piece of paper that I have on my desk. Maybe get one that's got, and then just snip, flip this piece over to the other corner, and you can make your other corner. Then I'm just going to ink this with some walnut. And then from here, I want just a smidgen of old book paper. You can see here, I've just got old book paper in between the 2 layers and also on the star. So I have lots of old books. I love old books. So all I'm going to do is just attach this onto the book paper, so that I see just like half of those words. I'm not that worried about what words I see. And then I'll just grab my trimmer, and it's just ever so slightly. Now you do run the risk, because it is old book paper, that it frays. That to me is just an added bonus for me. I will pull apart some of those little frayed pieces. That are on here. You can also take a sanding block if you've got a lot like I seem to. Snip your corners. But like I say, I do like if there's a little bit there. I have to go in and just add some more ink. And then I have, get rid of these, another piece of the craft colored cardstock that I'm going to attach the tag to. And again, I want just a smidge of the cardstock to show. Like I'm talking a little bit more than a 1/16 of an inch, not quite an 1/8 for sure. It's just a smidge. And of course, ink that up again. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to do the reinforcement that I need for the top. I've made it so that it's a little bit thicker. kind of hard to see. It's a little bit thicker. I just wanted it to have more of a presence. The only way I would recommend doing this is if you have a crocodile, because you need a regular hole punch will not punch through this many layers of cardstock. So I've got 4, and then the last one, I've got a script stamp that I'm just going to stamp. I've got just ground espresso, and then I'm going to punch through that script, and that's going to be my top one. So the 4 little pieces, so I'm just gluing them one on top of the other. And then the final one will be the one that I have the script. And that one's going to go on top. So we're just squishing those all together and make sure they're all lined up. And then, of course, ink that top one. And then this gets attached onto our tag. Make sure your script is going the right way. And then, like I said, I have my crocodile. I'm using the larger hole. And then when you place it in there in the middle, it just easily goes right through. All right, so that's the base of the tag that's ready. Then I used the Tim Holtz old die, one of the thicker Biggs dies. I had a star stacker, and so I punched out the 1 star. If you had a star punch, and worst case scenario, if you don't have a star punch or you don't have a die, just go onto Google and just get a star template and just print it to the size you want, cut it out, and then use it as a template to cut out. I just realized I was inking the non-textured side. We need the textured side showing. Okay, so just like we did for the back of the tag, I have a piece of book paper, and I want this to also be lined, to have a little smidge of the book paper showing. So this, I will just make sure my star has the 1 point at the top, because I do want, let's go down. I'm trying to just see where I can get, actually they're both about the same. Trying to see where there is a paragraph, but that's okay. I'm okay with that, but I do want it like that. And then you'll just have to go in with your scissors and cut around, making sure that you're leaving that edge again. I'm actually gonna just make a rough cut around to make it a little bit easier. Just to cut and leave just a smidge. I love old books. I love old dictionaries. I have several and I use them. I'm not afraid to, especially dictionaries. I love dictionaries. They are my favorite. And I figure, you know what? We don't use them anymore. They're perfect for a lot of my projects. Okay, so this I did not back again on a piece of cardstock because it's going to be on our tag, and it would be kind of redundant. We wouldn't see it on there. I should have actually started with the tree. Doesn't matter because you're going to have to let it dry anyway. But I have a piece of chipboard that I have cut 1 by 2. And how we make our tree is just take your ruler and measure 1/2 inch, and then just go corner to that mark. There we go. And then you'll have to use some like stronger scissors. The Tim Holtz scissors work really well because they're nice and strong. To make our tree. And then I've just used the Distressed Crackle paste in an opaque, which is white. You can, any kind of white crackle paste will do. And like I say, when you work with this, you do have to set it aside and you do have to let it dry. I'm just using my palette knife and I'm just kind of tapping some on there. I don't want it too thick, but I don't want it too thin either. The thinner the paste, the smaller the cracks. But I also have a very small project, so I don't want a lot of paste because I don't want my cracks to be too big for my little project. So once you have your paste on there, set it aside and come back to it probably overnight. You cannot rush it. You cannot dry it. Crackle paste has to dry on its own. Actually, I should have done this while we have this out. Our snowflake. I have one of the, it's just a little wooden snowflake. If you have a chipboard snowflake, if you have a snowflake punch, you could do it out of paper and glue several layers together to make it a little bit thicker. But I have these little wooden ones, and I'm taking some of my crackle paste just on the tip, and I just want to add just a little bit of paste on the tips of my snowflake. Just on, and I'm just tap, tap, tap. And then once you're happy with that, set that aside as well. That one won't take as long to dry because it's just a little amount that's on the tips. It's not a thick layer. So when they're dry, this is what they will look like. So if you look at this, you can see that there it was thicker. The paste was thicker, so I have bigger cracks. And where it was thinner, it's a little thinner. So now I'm going to use Vintage Photo Distress Crayon. You can use ink that's diluted with some water. All I want to do is I want to accentuate the cracks. And so I'm just adding a little bit of my crayon. And then I'm going to rub it with my finger a little bit. And then I'm going to add some water. And the water is going to do two things. It's going to seep that color into the cracks, and it's also going to give me just a little bit of an antique look on the top of the tree, which is the desired look that I want. The little snowflake, I'm not doing anything to that, but yeah, you can see on there is just a hint of color is all we want. And then you can go in and I'll just ink around the edges just a little bit more. Just be gentle when you're doing this because you don't want to flake off your crackle paste. Okay, so those are ready to go. Then we need our leaves. So like in previous videos that I've done, I'm using watercolor paper and I'm using the slime infusions. So I'm just tapping a little bit of the infusions on my craft mat. I'm going to just mix it together with my palette knife. If you don't have the infusions, you can use Distress ink. You can go back to Tim's Way. I love these infusions. They're my new favorite. There are multiple colors, which you can now find on the website. They're from Paper Artsy. They're a company in France. They are fantastic. If you haven't seen them at this point, if you're just jumping on, you haven't seen me use them, go back on the Facebook page and you will find a video that I've done on just the infusions, so that you can see how exactly they work, all the different ways that you can use them, and what different mediums you can use them with. They're very cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna clean up that. I'm gonna dab, get rid of my little dots of color on there, make sure it's dry. And then I have, it's actually a Martha Stewart stamp that works wonderfully. I do have to lean on it pretty good for this paper because it's a little thicker. Oh, I cut that one off a little bit. So we will do another. Okay, we need 3 leaves. So if you have something like that, or if you have a die cut, that would be great. If you have just a leaf punch, use that. Use whatever works for you. Okay, our old book paper is, I love how vintage it looks. So that's what I'm going to use to stamp my 'Tis the Season. No, I want Vintage Photo Archival. And I'm just going to stamp in the corner. Perfect. And I'm gonna just see if I can actually, let me go this way. I'm gonna see if I can eyeball it. With my long Tim Holtz scissors. We're just putting a V-snip on the right side. Just gonna turn that up. Perfect. And then of course, ink it. And this is getting attached onto the tag. I didn't put it right over. I just put it so that it was flush with the book paper that's on our tag. That's where I had it placed. Right near the bottom. Oh, I have to tell you, I just noticed the name of the book, or the chapter in the book, was called True Love. When my son and my daughter-in-law got married, she wanted old book paper with her table numbers printed on there. And I searched online to try to find an old book that we could use. And I'm like, well, I must have something that will have something that we can use, some kind of title, some kind of word that we could use. And I literally took this old book and I opened it up, and the chapter that it opened up to was called True Love. So I found the beginning chapter, where it starts, and it says True Love. It was absolutely perfect, and looked beautiful, beautiful on her tables when we did her table numbers. It was meant to be that I opened up that book and that it said True Love. Okay, I have to grab one thing, so hold on. Now I'm using this kind of, I don't know what it's called. I bought it off of Etsy years ago. I just love it because it's kind of like, you could easily make like a nest, or like, it's just fine, thin. Use thread. If you have some thread, you can spool up some thread. That will work too. I should see if I can, I don't know if I can go back on my history and see if I can find what it's called. I honestly don't know, but I love the look that it gives. So I'm just using a piece of tacky tape where I know that my star is going to cover it. And you just bunch, I'm just bunching this up. I am going to be using some heavier adhesive, so it is going to secure it more, but I just want it to just be there until I can, and I'm just going to trim some of these ends. Okay, then we are going to attach the star, and here I am going to use some heavy body gel. It's a nice strong adhesive, and we're going to grab our star. And I'm putting a generous amount in the middle because it does, one, it dries clear, and it just helps to kind of smoosh it in place, if that makes sense. So there is a right and a wrong way. Remember how we had our book paper on there. And this is just going on a slight angle. And then that extra adhesive just gets squished in that meshy stuff that I have, which is, yeah, like I say, really cool. Then I've got 3 pieces of just regular twine. It's just regular, thick, normal, thick twine. And I'm gonna kind of start at a third or so and make a bow with all 3 pieces. And hopefully I'm somewhere in the middle. You know what? I don't like that one, so we're gonna try again. There we go. So just kind of loosen them, open them up so that they're not all exactly the same. And that's going to go in there. So set it down. I'm like, oh, I think that might be just a smidge too big. There we go. I like that. So then again, I'm going to add some of the heavy body gel onto the back. And it's going to go right in the center of the star. And of course, just, I'm not doing them all at the same length. I'm doing them all a little bit different. Okay, so the tree is going to sit on here, but I want the top and the bottom supported so that it doesn't flip-flop. So I've cut myself a piece of cardboard that I am going to just rough cut around. I'm going to cut that a little shorter. And I wanted it brown. I didn't want to use foam squares. I wanted it brown because I want it not to be so noticeable on the tag, right? Because everything is brown color. So if I use cardboard, it's not white and you don't see that foam square. So it's still a little bit not high enough, so I'm going to cut another piece. And they don't have to be exactly the same because we're just using it to pop it up. Now that should be good. Yep, perfect. And then I got that little piece that will probably work for one at the top. And I should just make sure that it fits over. I need just a little bit more room. All right, so you can see that we've just added a little bit more adhesive and strength to that tree so that we can attach it on top of the bow. And I'm going to again use my heavy body gel on there. And that's what's going to secure. Oh, and we can add just a little bit on the top of our bow here as well. And that's going to go right in the middle. Just like that. Then we've got our little leaves. You could use your just regular adhesive, but you know what? I've got this out, so it works just as well. And I'm just tucking it in underneath that tree ever so slightly. I've got two at the bottom and then the one at the top. Just like that. And this dries clear, so you don't have to worry about, you can, you know, kind of see my adhesive in there, but that's okay because it dries clear. So the last is our snowflake, and I have this little 25 on there. You're gonna have to just use whatever you have. I was fortunate enough that in this old basic gray set, I found the little tiny 25. And so I was able to use this, and I wanted it to stand out against the red ink that I'm going to ink it. And so I used some gold embossing powder. So I'm just using my clear embossing ink on there. And then I have gold embossing powder. And we're just going to heat set that. So now I've got that cute little 25. And then I'm just going to take my lumberjack plaid with my little foam on there and just color in and make it red around it. I could have used red cardstock because that would have worked too. But since we're doing everything from scratch, and then I have this little, I don't even know how big of a little hole punch this is. It's tiny. And I'm just going to get in. maybe 3/8, maybe somewhere in there. And ink it up, and then, oh, put it on the snowflake. Find the snowflake. I could have actually inked it just a smidge more so it was more red, but that's okay. So this guy is going to get attached there. Now, again, because we've got so much depth there, we're going to add some more cardboard on there just to pump it up. I just need a little bit more. I have an old cardboard box that I take the tape off of. There we go. So I'm working with a very, very small space. So it's going to be very little. And I'm gonna do 3 layers again, like I did. I think I actually, in my original, I used foam squares under here just because they're already small. But we're gonna make this work. So that goes under. It's just to give it just a little bit more something to cushion on. And then on the one side where it's going over your tree, add some of your heavy body gel, and on there. And then just push this down. And like I said, once it dries, the heavy body gel is clear, but I'll get rid of just a little bit of the smooshy. There you go. Then just put another, if you're making it a tag, just put the twine on there. If you're going to make it into a table center, then just wrap it and tie it onto some greenery and use it as your place setting. So thank you so much for joining me again today. We will see you tomorrow with day 8.